Today, we're digging into an ancestry group that is absolutely fundamental to the American story, but at the same time, it's kind of hiding in plain sight. We are talking about German Americans, and we're about to find out why their real numbers are so much bigger than most people, maybe even you, think.
So let me just start with a question. What do you think is America's single largest ancestry group? You know, your first guess might be Irish or maybe English, right? But the real answer is, well, a lot more complex, and it's been right there in front of us the whole time.
Yep, the answer is hiding in plain sight. See, German culture is just woven into the very fabric of America, our food, our traditions, whole towns and industries. And yet, if you look at the official data, the story seems a lot quieter. But here's the thing, that quietness, it isn't an absence. It's actually a clue to this incredible story of integration.
Okay, so to really understand what's going on here, we have to start with the official story. You know, the baseline numbers that give us our starting point. According to the U.S. Census, about 40 to 41 million people say they have German ancestry. And look, let's be clear, that is a massive number. And to put that into perspective for you, even with just those self-reported numbers, German ancestry is already the single largest group in the entire United States. It's ahead of both Irish and English. But what's so fascinating is that this huge number, it's really just the tip of the iceberg. And here is the key to why that number is just the start. The census measures self-reported ancestry. This isn't a DNA test, right? It's all about what you know about your family, what you were told growing up, or simply what feels most relevant to your identity today. And that subjectivity, well, that's where our hidden story really begins. So, let's become investigators for a minute and start uncovering the clues that all point to a much, much higher number of Americans with German heritage. All right, our first huge clue is the anglicization of names. For generations, German immigrants would adapt their last names to fit in better in an English-speaking country. So the name Müller became the super common Miller. Schmidt became Smith. And Schneider, which just means tailor, became Taylor. Now you gotta understand, this wasn't about erasing their heritage, not at all. It was about being practical, about fitting in. As one historian put it, names didn't disappear, they translated. And that simple act of translation has made millions of German descendants way less visible over time.
And it's not just the names. So many German traditions got so deeply ingrained that we just think of them as American now. On top of that, the census form itself often only lets you pick one or two ancestries, which forces people with mixed heritage to make a choice. And of course, after centuries, a lot of families with deep German roots they just identify as American.
Next up, we have to talk about something a bit more sensitive, but it's an absolutely crucial factor: the powerful way history shaped public identity.
You have to remember, during the World War I and World War II eras, the social climate in America changed dramatically. For a lot of German American families, publicly identifying with their heritage just became uncomfortable, even impractical. German language schools faded away, and families started really emphasizing an English-first identity.
These were pragmatic choices made for stability, for opportunity. It wasn't about rejecting their heritage, but the effect was permanent. It created this quietness around German identity that got passed down through generations, and that leads directly to the underreporting we see in today's data. Okay, so we've gathered our clues. We've got the name changes, the cultural blending, the limits of the census, and these powerful historical pressures. Now, let's put all the evidence together and make the case for the real number.
So here's how the experts actually figure this out. You start with that solid, confirmed base of 41 million people. Then, you methodically start adding back in the populations that we know aren't being fully counted. All those people with translated names, those who couldn't list all their ancestries, and the millions whose heritage has just blended into the American mainstream.
And when you do that, the number is just staggering. The most plausible, evidence-based estimate for Americans with significant German ancestry is closer to 60 million people. 60 million. That doesn't just make it the largest heritage group in the US, it makes it the largest by a massive margin.
But really, this isn't a story about a culture that vanished. It is the exact opposite. The reason the numbers are so hard to track is because German heritage didn't wall itself off. It integrated so successfully that it became a foundational piece of what we all consider to be American.
And that brings us right to the core takeaway here. A heritage that blends this successfully doesn't just survive, it multiplies. It spreads out across the entire population, becoming embedded in the nation's DNA.
That quietness isn't a sign of weakness at all. It's a sign of its incredible reach and influence.
So we'll leave you with this question. What if heritage visibility actually matched heritage reality? It really forces us to rethink not just this one group, but how we think about American identity itself. Not as a collection of separate boxes, but as this deep, complex, and incredibly successful story of blending. Thanks for digging into this with me.